So the SpongeBob episode Summer Job was a review that I made 5 years ago, being the original Ryanimation review too. Since I have improved in the past 5 years, I wanted to redo some of my older reviews before 2022. Since I'm not the biggest fan of my own content before this year, I can kinda tolerate some of my stuff from 2021 and even 2020, but nothing really in the 2010s decade. And this will not be the only thing that I will re-review. There are several things that I reviewed in previous years that I am re-reviewing, like the Cartoon Network 64 episodes Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, and Mike, Lou, and Nog. Yes, I took those down for that I was not a fan of how those turned out. Like, I get asked once or twice a week every week where those specific episodes went, and that's the answer. They're being redone. And some Ryanimation reviews will be redone, like both of my DC Superhero Girls reviews. Yes, really. And Infinity Train will be redone since that show finished with 4 seasons now. Last time that I reviewed it, it only had 1 season. And the Minions movie, since my opinion on the film has changed since 4 years ago. And I don't know what else will be re-reviewed. These re-reviews will take time though. One of my biggest problems in previous years was rushing things. And I don't want to re-rush things because that would defeat the purpose. Reviews take time to make, and rushing them only makes things worse. Not everything will be redone though. I'm not redoing any of my MLP reviews. They don't really interest me enough. And redoing all the episodes ranked worst to best would take forever. And no, the Friendship is Magic pilot wasn't a re-review. Technically, I never did review it on its own merit. I might, though, redo the MLP cliche list, but that's a maybe. The rest of the normal episodes? No. I'm starting with the SpongeBob episode Summer Job because it's easy. I can make this an easy 10-minute review, and not be something like over an hour long with some of the upcoming Ryanimation reviews that I have planned. Also, yes, I am animated. Thank you for noticing. This is a one-time thing. Animating is a bitch to do. So my OC will go back to being stills next time. But the new OC is here to stay, as well as the new background. Why did I pick the episode Summer Job back then? Everyone was talking about SpongeBob at the time, and I wanted to join in as a good starting point for my review series. No one seemed to talk about this episode, so I thought that I would join in, talking about this episode. Most of my points from the original Ryanimation review still stand, but I do want to talk about it for a couple of minutes though. You see, I didn't use a professional program for editing that I do now. Today I use Vegas. Guess what I used 5 years ago? Windows Movie Maker.
Keep in mind that Mrs. Puff is supposed to be the bad guy of this episode, and this episode is particularly cruel to Mrs. Puff for trying to get away from her stalker.
This guy, with shit productions, shitty audio, and shitty editing, somehow got 73,000 subscribers in under a decade. YouTube really is a place where dreams do come true. And nightmares come true here as well. You may notice that the old review had black bars. Black bars are unprofessional. What you should do is either A, stretch the footage so that it fits the full screen, or B, add a background to the original ratio. If you're wondering, I am going with B in this re-review. And there's also no background music. Background music, from what I gather, usually helps with production values. And don't even get me started on the shitty audio. I used a broken microphone back then. Today I use a snowball. And the original review was scene by scene. A straightforward review, or a Wikipedia review as it is also called. Today I do retrospective reviews, meaning that I jump from place to place. If I want to start at the ending, I'll start at the ending. If I want to start at the middle, I'll start at the middle. It's an overview per se, and retrospective reviews can start and end anywhere. Previous examples from this year, the Proud Family video was a straightforward one for that I talked about the events of the episode in order. While both my Turning Red video and Ryanimation Review 1 were me jumping from random points to help my review points, i.e. a retrospective review. And yes, this time for Summer Job, it's gonna be a retrospective review. One issue that I don't think that I did a good job talking about enough last time was Mr. Krabs. While SpongeBob himself is the biggest problem with the episode, Mr. Krabs is not much better.
Quite a conundrum you have here. It would be a crying shame to a certain someone if this information were to leak out to the authorities.
Mr. Krabs is a greedy bastard, yes, I know that, you know that, but he does have his limits, which is what makes him a good character. He does know when to stop. Look at an episode like Squeaky Boots, where he feels bad of SpongeBob feeling miserable and also guilty since he took the boots.
I took the boots! They're just done.
He cared about what the customers ate and selling out.
You better believe there's a problem. Krabby Patties are supposed to be made by hand, one at a time, not on a conveyor belt.
And in calling the cops, there's this cute scene.
Cops don't hold hands.
Well, they should.
Bring it in, officer, little buddy.
Another limit that Krabs has is that he is always nice to Mrs. Puff. Yet in this episode, this is the worst ever treatment for her. Yes, there was only one episode prior with them together in Krusty Love, and no, I don't count Growth Spout because Mrs. Puff couldn't tell that was Mr. Krabs. Let's talk about Krusty Love, shall we? How often do you see Mr. Krabs torn between money and a woman? Not often.
I'm caught in the middle of me two great loves, sweet Mrs. Puff, and the rest of me money.
Usually Eugene sings songs about how much he loves money.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-chingery. Money, oh money, how I love thee.
That's what makes the love feel real. It'd be like if Eddie from Ed, Edd and Eddy gave his jawbreakers to a girl that he loved.
Ed, how many times does 2 go into 3? Think!
In this one, Krabs blackmails Mrs. Puff, something that he would never do in any other episode. Or at the very least, no other episode has him being rude to Mrs. Puff. Yes, Mrs. Puff crashed into the Krusty Krab. But I'm sure that Mr. Krabs will cut her a little slack. They even date in future episodes. Speaking of dating.
You mean we should go out on a date?
Interesting. No, I had something else in mind.
When I did my original review on this, there weren't any future episodes yet of these two dating. And yes, that would be unfair to the original review. But with them out now, I still want to bring them up to show what makes them better.
What a woman. Oh, Eugene.
In episodes like Worry Brains, Feral Friends, and Cookie Cooks, we see them dating and romancing each other, and Mr. Krabs genuinely cares about her. Even in Cookie Cooks, he's willing to do anything he can to make Mrs. Puff a nice home-cooked meal.
Oh, please, don't tell the police. I'll be a dead man if I get caught.
You did drive into the restaurant front door. Don't restaurants have security cameras regardless? Wait, who am I kidding? Mr. Krabs is probably too cheap to put them in.
Why should I waste money lighting the whole store?
Before I get to SpongeBob, let's talk about Mrs. Puff. She actually has some faults in this episode. Like, seriously, you couldn't have just read the note? I mean, I know why she's freaked out by SpongeBob, but he didn't do much at first in the start of this. But of course, Puff goes through way too much shit. She doesn't need to put up with SpongeBob's antics all day, and now, SpongeBob himself, the biggest issue with him isn't that he's annoying, it's that he's just so unfunny. The episode fails here the most because 95% of the jokes in this episode don't work. There's this one good joke.
Of course, Mr. Feathermuffin.
It's funny seeing Mrs. Puff not give a fuck because, why would she? Everything else feels like wasted potential.
I get to show you the ropes, Mrs. Puff.
You know, that joke would have been funnier if SpongeBob actually showed some ropes to Mrs. Puff.
The total key is a bit sticky, so you're gonna have to be forceful, but not too forceful.
Why is SpongeBob the one to teach the cashier stuff? I mean, Squidward got off thanks to Mr. Krabs, and Krabs himself doesn't give a fuck. But wasn't it proven in previous episodes that SpongeBob sucks as a cashier?
A customer ordered a medium soda and I gave him a large. I gave him a large. I've soiled the good Krusty Krab name.
Soiled it! Soiled it! Soiled it!
Oh, speaking of Squidward, Mr. Krabs allowed Squidward off, but there's no jokes with it. Squidward doesn't even speak in this episode. I mean, when Squid got off in Imitation Krabs, he was ecstatic.
Hey, why don't you take the rest of the day off? Whatever you say, Mr. Krabs.
And in Big Pink Loser, there's this bit.
Hey, Squidward, guess who just got a job?
Guess who just quit?
And it's funny because Squidward goes back to work when Patrick leaves.
Stop copying me!
There's no award for that!
Well, I guess it's safe to go in now.
I'm just honestly surprised that they do nothing with that here. The same thing with SpongeBob's costume. That's your disguise? Really, SpongeBob? You were more creative and no free rides. And the joke there was that you weren't creative or tricking.
What do you want?
I'd like to gain entrance to your social club, please. I believe my hairdo is in order.
Here it's confusing.
What are you doing yelling at me, customers? The Duke here is one of me regulars.
You know, that joke right there would have worked if it was Patrick. Patrick is usually the guy that gets stuff wrong. Krabs is not like that. By the way, No Free Rides wasn't the only episode to make costume tricking from SpongeBob work. There was also Sanctuary. SpongeBob looks so different there that even Mr. Krabs was confused by SpongeBob's new look.
I was seeking me old matey SpongeBob and...
Oh, hey, Mr. Krabs.
What else do we got for the humor?
Pothole!
Why does the Krusty Krab have a pothole?
Should I waste money like the whole store?
Oh, yeah. Duh! You missed 2 joke opportunities, a dinner and a show joke and a bowling joke. Like Mrs. Puff could have rolled over 10 customers for a bowling joke. Speaking of joke opportunities, SpongeBob at the end of this episode gets to be a boating teacher. Despite him still in boating school and that he can't teach how to drive, some people like to theorize that someone wants Mrs. Puff miserable. And while you can make that theory credible all you want, if you don't make in-episode establishments, your scenario won't work and it will end up being a plot hole. And to end this one off, let's talk about the animation. SpongeBob in the quote-unquote dark age didn't have good animation. I mean, it was passable. It was definitely better than other late 2000s cartoons at the time, compared to the garbage ocean of Flash animation in the late 2000s and early 2010s. SpongeBob still looked good. The problem was, for a slapstick show, there wasn't really much slapstick. While SpongeBob can be a full-on comedy with variety, this episode is trying to do slapstick, and it doesn't work. And that's honestly how I feel about the animation throughout the post-first movie era. It doesn't have the freedom as the classic era, nor does it take more advantage of being animated like the newer season. It honestly just feels restrained. Ironic since we're not talking about restraining SpongeBob. Oh, and let's not forget everyone's favorite animation era. Mrs. Puff crashes through the front door here. Later in the episode, the front door is 100% fine, despite the fact that we saw no one in the episode fixing it, and the only reason why Mrs. Puff is here is because she destroyed the front door. This episode really does feel like it was written in one draft. But Nick at the time wanted more episodes at a faster rate and not be good. They just wanted more with the sponge in the end. You could say that someone there needs a summer job. Thank you for watching this video. This video was edited by me, Rebecca. If you liked the video that you saw, consider supporting me on Patreon in the description below. Your name will appear at the end of every video, and your OC will be at the beginning of every video. To follow me on any other piece of social media, please check the description below. Thank you for watching. StarGiantProductions out.